Hope your holidays have been good.
Ah, been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Happy holidays to you. Hey, Rod, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, man.
Hey,
It's
is
been
that light
great.
too bright here?
What's
My
that?
oh, the light's coming in. You can see the cactus and stuff out back.
But
I'm
it's
just
like
chilling.
your background is as white as Coach's, and his is a green screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a little bright. Do I need to shut it down?
No, not at all. It's
Okay.
just like you're covered in white like Coach.
Hey, I've got an aura. Goes with my hair.
It goes with the hair, and that's why we can't see Annie.
Yeah, what hair?
It's white on white. It's
So
white
who's
on white.
coach?
Hey, Coach, have you met Rod before on previous business mastery transformation sessions? Or you guys were going through at different times, right?
Yeah, I don't think I had the pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet you, Rob.
Well, good to meet you. So
Yeah.
why you're called the coach? What's that from?
Oh, that's what my clients call me because I kick their butt and helping them to get to where they want to go.
Well, good on you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I saw you did a interview with someone. What was it was like it's a little soundbite. Was it a social media thing, a video?
I've launched my new podcast, so
Oh, is that
now
it
I've
was
I've gotten little segments and bites of the podcast going out, and we have it on iTunes now, and we also have a Leverage Leader YouTube page where people can actually see the interview on the YouTube page.
nice? Yeah, we do the same with the business breakthrough community. We put them up on a YouTube channel. It becomes a podcast as well, but the intent is to get people through to Zoom live so we can have an interactive environment instead of like an interview environment. Instead of me interviewing you and you promote your next book or your podcast, just having an environment where we can have dialogues. And it's amazing the feedback we're hearing from people. Like Rod, we were just casually chatting the other day and we covered stuff that she's a friend of mine before she was ever a client. She's now a client, but she's for well over a decade just friends. Kids growing up together. Running the same friend group, and she's a local entrepreneur. She's watched what I've done at a distance, and but she watched something cut up and thrown up on LinkedIn, and she's like, "I'm going through that same situation." Like that one guy talking about you, Rod. He said something like, I'm in this same situation. So what's interesting is how sometimes we beat ourselves up for the content that we provide to the world because we see it through our own personal lens, as if like maybe it's not audacious enough or cutting edge enough, but uh, good advice is contextual, right? And for other people, that might be the most transformative thing they could have heard that day, right? And so we say we can't influence someone when we're judging them, but why as leaders do we judge ourselves so harshly when others can hear it and say it was a life altering advice? So
Well,
it really does shine a new light on that.
it's amazing how little things can just change you. I think I may have told you this once. I was in 1983, early 83, and I was a young Turk, yuppie, etc., with a company out of New York. And I was about 15, 20 years younger than all my compatriots.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this motivational speaker. I don't remember the guy's name, don't remember anything about him, other than he said, "Have you ever noticed how some people live their lives like they're walking on eggshells, trying to make it safely into death?"
Yeah.
And I looked down to my right and I looked down to my left, and that was exactly the group I was sitting with.
Not a good group to be with. Well, you know what? I mean, it could be tough to find those that are keeping up with those that have high standards. It's a leadership is rare unto itself. I mean, isn't that what you called your group? Leveraged leaders or something like that? Isn't that what you called it?
Leverage Leader. Yep.
right? You know, and the best are always trying to get better, so the cream rises to the top, and it's a rare percentage of people that embrace mastery, that are looking constantly to find some kind of degree of improvement, that avoid that voice of ego inside their head that says, well, I'm better than anyone I know, right? And they let that get to them. I'm better than anyone I know. Well, that's, you know, the advice I got from my dad before he passed. One of the best pieces of advice I remember to this day was, he's like, the problem you have is you're smarter than everyone you know. Like, you're a big fish in a small pond. So it was like, okay, great, time to go jump in the ocean. Time to go swim with the sharks and find a way to not be eaten alive. And you know, that'll force your growth real fast. Not many people embrace that, because boy, there's something seductive that I don't understand, because it's not of how I'm made, but must be seductive, because I see so many people get drawn into apathy, and they never want to be call it apathy. By the way, they never call it apathy. They call it like, oh, I'm fulfilled. Like, you know, but are they really fulfilled? Like, okay, if you're fulfilled, give me your 0 to 10 scale on your wheel of life. You're going to score really high. Isn't that by definition of fulfillment? You feel like you're doing very well emotionally, spiritually, physically. That's a fulfilled human being. You know,
Hey,
and if that's the
Ted,
case, yeah.
I just got a text today from a guy. It's a quote from a guy named Edmund Burke. I've
Uh-huh.
seen the name, but I don't know his history. And the quote is, nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could do only a little.
Did nothing because he only could do a little. Yeah.
And how many people, they'll tell you about their dreams, but you know, they didn't have what they needed. They didn't have the funding. They didn't have the
Yeah.
whatever. And it's
Yeah.
like, so you did nothing with it. Is that right?
Yeah. It's interesting, the line between, so how do we extend compassion simultaneously while holding great standards, right? And it's a challenge I have often, because in our culture we can chew up and spit out weaker people that have that mentality. The way you framed it sounded like a victim, right? Well, what happens if you're very successful, you've done well, and you want to coast, like you want to reap the rewards of that thing, right?
Right.
Well, they usually don't hang around that much, because we're always the best are always trying to get back. It's just that concept. So the momentum and progress. I've been saying the word growth, and I think I'm using the wrong word. I think growth is not the word. I think progress is. I think all human beings find happiness from progress, but growth can be sickness. I think that's a greatest lie ever told to all human beings on this planet, especially business owners, is the word more, as in more is better. More is itis, inflammation. That's how doctors describe disease. If it ends with itis, it means it's inflamed. So, but entrepreneurs will say, well, you know, they tell me about the problems and I ask how they're going to solve them. And they're like, more what? More cash flow, more clients, more staff, more itis.
Well, to that point, who was your restaurant buddy here a week or two ago talked about
Gregory.
the biggest sales year he ever had was the least profit he ever made?
Yeah, I was now Gregory was on, but it wasn't his business, for those that might know his bar here locally. That guy was the Thai restaurant. And I'll avoid saying his name, but it was a very well-known Thai restaurant in Portland, Oregon. I think they had 11 locations. So when in doubt, if you went to a Thai restaurant, your chances are 50% chance your favorite was his location. And that's right. He had chefs. They were new and they got liberal with their servings amounts. And everyone's like, wait a minute, I love this amount. It's a ton of food. It's great value. And they kept coming back. And you know, it was the best top line year they've ever made, but it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And so if I want to keep the right type of people in my environment, like in Business Breakthrough Community here and Business Mastery Transformation that you both have gone through, how do we hold a high standard, but then also still provide compassion? That's what I'd be interested to find out today, is how, as a leader, do we hold people to the standard they say they want to be held to, but then simultaneously have compassion in the face of someone's apathy, or the face of someone's complacency, or in the face of someone's shortcomings. And the only solution I can find is patience. Not the only, but it's the one that comes up more often than not. So I'm kind of curious. I'll start with you, Coach, since you're in the leadership space. People come to you all the time and say, yeah, I want to be a better something. And then inevitably they're not doing the thing they need to be doing. So where's the line between kick their butt? Isn't that what you said? I kicked their butt when you introduce yourself to Rod. Where's the line between kick their butt to like, oh, that hurt, you know, and now they're a victim because coach is beating them up? How do you hold the standard and still come across compassionate? What do you do?
Well, the first thing is I'll say this so I can effectively answer the question, but allow me to digress and backdrop for the purposes of setting the context. I never take on anyone who's not already on the path to whatever they want to do. And this is super important because what it allows me to do throughout the process that I work with them is to guide them rather than try to train them and instruct them, but guide them along the path. So if they're not already on the path of what it is that they want to accomplish, and they look at me like I'm the path, well, I'm already going off.
Sure.
Kilter.
That makes
I'm already off. So
Yep.
if the person is already on that path, they're tripping, they're stumbling, but they're still progressing on that path. They may need
that's
a
a
better
smart
guide.
little like segue to put in there, because you and I aren't cut of that. But there's a lot of gurus out there that it's their way, their process, and they push the they think. Yeah, that's said very well. So that's right. You guide them. You're not the way. Because if you help them through the breakthrough, then they always need you, right? And then when it stops working, guess who they're going to blame? Right?
Yeah, they're gonna blame you. Yeah.
All right. So then keep going. I'm interested. So it's not about you. You guide them.
They have to be committed, to doing, they have to be on the path. Secondary, they have to be committed to me.
Yeah. So they're on the path and they're
guidance.
committed.
Yeah. And then they're committed to finally the investment of time, energy, money to get that done. Without those three commitments, though, we're already in the boat of uncertainty.
Yeah.
But it has to be in that order.
I get you.
Be like in that order.
I found a dance that they are committed to an outcome. Let's say they grew fast. It went from 400,000 to 6 million in 12 months. So they're growing fast. And they thought they're going to double sales that next year, but guess what? Things got complicated. One of their partners got sick, or they, for some reason, they didn't grow that next year as much as they thought. They thought they were going to double sales, and they did 6.7 million instead. So they're committed to improve their skills to grow. That's what they say. They're committed. And what I found is things changed at about 3 months in on real lasting change. Something about time, or like 1 month in, it's all new. So it's kind of sexy, right? Month 2 looks real good because that's when you start seeing the ROI of what you did last month. So now it's like, whoa, hey, this stuff's really working. Sometimes, coach, we get that low-hanging fruit right out of the gate, but often it's in month 2. But month 3, shit's hitting the fan because you know what? No answer is better than just more of the same. Then there's no new idea that needs to be brought to the table. It's anchoring in lasting change. There is no, like at month 3, there's a different energy, because when it's new, you meet your need for variety. But now it's like, just keep doing the reps. Keep doing the reps. And I found those that have gone through the shit. I just said shit. So I bet, I don't know if there's a better answer for it. Like, you've gone through some stuff in your life. They have a deeper well to pull from. Wolf.
It's significant because people, I've heard a quote before. I've always held on to it. Is that people are desperate to be unconscious. They're desperate to be unconscious. They really don't want to know what's going on with them. They really don't. As long as they can shift the reason why something is not working to an external thing, oh, it's this, it's that, it's all of these other things. It's like you said, growth is good until it starts impacting who I'm being.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything is fun and games until I need to change, until I need to do something different. And when the moment that comes into place, now we start we find the excuses become more and more. They start coming up a lot more. And we start shifting things because, again, we don't want to be conscious of it. It's like, you know what?
Mm.
I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to deal with it. But the moment you're confronted with it, then it requires you to confront what's going on inside of you. And for
Wow.
many people, that's just a place they're not willing, to address. It's like, I can handle the success as long as I can be successful and be who I am
Yeah,
and
the
stay
I
the
am
way
bit.
that
The
I
I
am.
am bit is the interesting thing, is that's commonly the unconscious chosen identity that was given to you by your society, your family, your group, your dogma. It was delivered to you. So what did what was this Sadhguru say, like on Joe Rogan or some shit? you know, I think it was somewhere he was alluding to. He goes, it's like everyone gave up on this concept of heaven or something, which was like, he goes, well, describe what heaven is to you or someone, and I can't remember what it was. Like a place that feels good or this or that, and he goes, okay, well, great. So then, everyone keeps pretending like, how do you describe it? This is why Sadhguru is so famous, and I'm still struggling for words when you're trying to articulate something so simple. It was like everyone's just he was just basically saying everyone's addicted to a drug. Everyone's addicted to the drug, which could be a chemical one. Often it's the smartphone technologies. Like the kids, they're addicted to, like, they unconsciously are like gravitating towards that. And the stoic in me is like, I picked up the other day, it was through a holiday experience where I put time for the family, and I went and grabbed that, and I was like, whoa, what was that? And I know it sounds small, but I'm revisiting some stoic materials and meditations, and there's just this weird quote. It was about, in this book, it was alluding to how this one philosopher just had this urge to drink, and he's not an alcoholic. English, I wish I could remember his name. I think he's an English philosopher, but he just had to urge in the middle of the day to have a drink. And that was enough for him to say, I'm never going to drink again. Most people don't embrace that kind of concept. Most people say, no, I'd rather go get unconscious, like liquor, the drug, the this, and just have something affect me, because it's so easy to do it. And yet, if you're willing to express the virtue and express courage to face that fear, because I don't know if there's courage without the face of fear. If you don't have fear, is there even courage? I don't know. So you face that fear, whatever that is, that I'm not good enough, that identity. You allow yourself to challenge your identity, because the identity, it's not in stone. It's there. Every human being is shaped. Rarely have I met humans that are stagnant in their entire life. And the way I used to test them or ask them, I wasn't testing them, but I've looked back in hindsight and realized what happened is I'd always ask about their belief systems around major stuff, like political perspectives. Has it changed in your entire life? Or religious perspectives. Do you feel the same way about God or this thing greater than yourself today than you did 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago? Have you had any significant improvement in that? I asked thousands of people that, and everyone said yes. So I was showing they're going through progress, but I finally met this one woman, won't say her name, married to one of my top clients, have gotten a lot of recognition. And she said no. And it took me a long time, but since I was in a relationship with her husband, I was able to find out, like, her dogma, she didn't want to learn anything new, because then that meant her dogma was wrong. Her dogma that she had, a belief system one, was socially getting thrown underneath the, what do you call it? They were being canceled pretty heavily, and made it ridiculed. So she just didn't grow in any way, shape, or form. That person can't be a very fulfilled person, right? Where's the progress if you had zero spiritual progress in the last decade of your life? So going back to how do you do compassion? So how do you hold someone to a standard? So A, they got to be on the path. B, they're committed to that path. But what do you do at month 3? Like when there's no more newness, they got to go back and just do the hard labor again. It's like nothing but more of the same. And I don't know. I don't know if it's, I wonder if that's just enough of us. Like maybe they grew enough in our presence. That's all we can give them in that moment. And I definitely don't take any personal accountability on it, but I've been thinking on this often, Coach. Maybe that is so profound for them. That was the biggest degree of improvement they've had in their entire life. And you see it as something sophomoric. But I think certain people that have gone through the shit, I don't know what language I should use that doesn't say the word shit, but like gone through the fire. There you go. Who's been forged in fire. People have been forged and who's gone through some tough times. They usually have a deeper well. Like they faced death or something significant. Like I know Coach and I, we've gone through things that made us really question our humanity. Like, you know, wow, I mean, is this going to be our identity? And we've overcome those odds. And I know because when you've had your degree of pain, your 0 to 10 scale rating, and you say 10's the most amount of pain you can ever accept in life, and you have to radically adjust that to where your old 10 is now just a 7, right? You're like, wow, like it's, you know, rarely do I meet human beings that have been in that degree of pain. Who could stop you? Like there's just not that much I can complain about because nothing can compare that. It's all 3s and 4s. Right?
That's exactly the reason why I say consciousness is so powerful. Because what people miss about consciousness is that what it gives you is the ability to make a decision from a place of awareness rather than programming. It is so like to know it. I'm not even saying if you're going to do it to yourself, like if you're going to do it to yourself, do it, but do it from a place of awareness rather than programming, because we are so huge on programming. We are so huge on, you know, this is the way I've always been. This is
Yeah.
the way I was taught how to do it.
Yeah.
This is, you know, and we're constantly making decisions on
Just the
programming.
way the way the holiday dessert was supposed to show up is the way my grandma did it. It's the only
Yeah.
way.
So, yeah. So when we get to a place of, you know, you want to call it personal responsibility, you want to call it awareness, understanding like I'm making this decision consciously to do this or to not do this. It is totally very empowering to know I'm making this from a place of consciousness. And so while you say compassion, what I really would call it is just holding space. It's just holding space for that individual to bring them to that awareness like, okay, so if you choose to not move forward, then do it from a place of awareness. Don't do it from a place of programming. You know, my dad quit. You know, we none of us has ever done it, so I'm going to do it this way too. We've always, you know, we've always tried and failed, and so I'm going to do this from a place of programming. They said I couldn't make it anyway, so I'm going to do this. The doctor said I'm going to die, so I might as well do it the way he said he's going to do it. Don't do it from a place of programming. No, do it from a place of awareness.
Have you
And
ever
saying,
found
if
there's
I'm going to
degrees of
do this, I'm
self-awareness?
choosing. So what now?
Have you found there are degrees of self-awareness? Like
Most
power
definitely.
versus force. He ranked it from
Yes.
0 to 1,000 and
Yes,
put
it
Christ
is.
consciousness at 1,000, that kind of thing, right? Love was 500. Average human being operating like 200. Pretty far away from love, and definitely wait. So if you've seen degrees of consciousness and people come in with you at one point, how do we know, like, are we there to help them go from 300 to 400? Or the fact that we got them for 200 to 300 is enough? Like, as a leader, it's something I'm thinking about. It's like, to what extent do we play full out? right? And I can only keep, and I always keep coming back to my one answer. I'll just tell you now that's always just my journey. This is my journey, and they're choosing to be in my proximity. And the only thing I could ever ask is whenever I ask questions about me and someone else called the we, the real thing it's always about is only ever just me. So what virtues do I have, and can I hold that space? And then, but how do I hold that space to where if I'm shooting for something else, let's say they were in my proximity and went from 2 to 300, but I'm still shooting for 700 and I'm operating out of 350. I'm only halfway to my promised land, and they're at the edge of their self-consciousness zone that they're going to be willing to put up with. That dance, that's Rod, something I've been asking a lot about. Like, what role do I have? What do I do?
Well, I've got a question for you and Coach Ted. When you guys are doing your work with someone, and let's say someone's programmed, I think Coach, that was your word, that I can go this far and no further. If I'm guessing you roll a few grenades under their desk to get their attention, but at what point do you finally cut and run and go find a different client?
Well, it depends on where they're at on the client engagement and like what they've said they're committed to. Because some people are being transparent and they had enough self-awareness to say, hey, I have limiting beliefs that are holding me back. And I'm hoping you can help me with that. Others are, hey, you're here to help me with this one thing. I was in a company to help them with train their sales talent. And we had a 46% top line revenue increase for like a $125 million company. That's sexy sauce, by the way. Like, just so you all know, 20% is fast growth. You know, we did 46% increase. So yeah, we crushed it. But then I saw they had this whole other issue because they wanted to go IPO, and I saw all the reasons why that was never going to happen. I was like, but they were committed. It seemed like they were committed to have me help in this way. And I could see that they wanted my help. They invited me to their annual meetings of owners, and no one in the room was an owner other than me. And they invited me there. So obviously they wanted my feedback. And when they gave me some data on some cash flow, I was like, whoa, we should be cutting staff. And I said that, and the next day when they had managers there and they're like, no, we're not doing that. But within 2 days later, the notice went out and they were cutting 40% because they recognized that what Ted said was right. But it doesn't mean they want to hear it. Like, it's interesting. Some people do and don't. So it's not like find a new client. I'm always finding clients that are on path, like what Coach said. I'm always attracting people because of the words and my commitments. And most importantly, I think just by our willingness to consistently show what we stand for, that people don't do what you say, they do what you do, and that they show that you will protect an environment and get rid of people. So I use that analogy of operating. We're shooting for, 700 kind of, thing. And I'm at 350, but if they're below 200, I'll clean the group out. They'll want to see, are you protecting me? Because that can act like an anchor. So I'm always adding in new clients, because to let go of a client is one thing. That's a different energy to where you're saying, I'm trying to cut out my bottom 10% of my clients and clean house. You'll be way more likely to cut out your bottom 10% when you have more coming in on the top than you need. If you can, I call that cracking the code. You can get more clients coming in your world than supply and demand has. It's so much easier for you to raise your standards, because Rod, money will mess with people's standards. You get big money from a client and they're just not the perfect fit. Watch someone bend their virtues real fast because of the cash. Right? So it's so much easier to say no to that money. And it's always, we've never regretted saying no. Right, Coach? Have you ever regretted saying no to the wrong client? You've only regretted hanging on to the wrong client too long. So my goal is to create an environment I call love them in, love them out, to where they get out of my world. I've created things to where they'll just stop being in my proximity and say, I got enough out of this person. They'll be satiated enough. They're good. They went to 300 and I'm on come hell or high water. I'm going to 700. Well, they love themselves out. They're like, that was great. And they're done. They just opt out. I just create things to where they can show up or not. And they just don't show up to practice anymore. They, if coach can't improve their game if they're not on the court, they just don't show up to court. Right. But I didn't hire them. They hired me. So I don't like, hey, where were you at? You know what I mean? It's like first time reminder. First time was like, shame on them. Second time, shame on me. But the third time, now I have martyrdom if I'm trying to chase them down to get them to want to be more hungry than they are. So I just do a 3 strikes are out. But coach, how about you? How do you handle it? When do you go from, whoa, they were on the path, no longer want to seem to be on that path, and they don't seem to be as committed as they were before? How do you decide how you love them in, love them out?
It's you have to go back and reevaluate their commitments.
Oh yeah.
You know, the piece of it is I liken it, Ted, to an elevator. Like my destination may be floor 24. My destination may be the penthouse suite. Okay. But just because that's where I desire to go doesn't mean that everybody that's riding that elevator with me has it to go floor 24.
Yeah.
And so in understanding that, I always kind of like position myself as like an elevator that's going up. We're all about, you know, excelling and scaling.
Mhm.
So, but people are going to get off. They're going to
They're
get
not going to
off
go to level.
and
They're not going to floor 24. They might get off at
yeah.
floor 16. Right.
And
That's
if
where the
that's
restaurant's
if
at.
that's where they're getting off, that's where they get off. But it doesn't deter me from getting where I'm going.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they got where they wanted to go. You know,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times, and Ted, you know this, you hear it a lot. Man, we want to build an 8-figure company. Okay. But in the process of trying to get the 8 figures, they realize what they want is somewhere right around $4 million. And I got this, I got that. Operation seems smooth. Everything is in my control. I like the way we function. I like the way we operate. I like who I am at this level.
Yeah.
And so
That
they get
self-awareness
off.
is so far and few in between. You're talking about so few are conscious, but then to be self-aware to know what do they really want? To say that I'd rather have a higher profitable $4 million company than a lower profitable $15 million company that has 3 times the headaches. Like
And
that's a
they won't
very
know until they
rare
take the path.
self-aware human
Yeah.
being.
So it's gonna, but what happens is that that's often discovered on the path,
Yeah.
not before they start.
Yeah.
And so I look at it like, okay, you may say this is where I'm on the path, this is what I want, but I understand we're on an elevator.
Mm-hmm.
And so while you're taking this journey, you may find yourself saying, hey guys, this is where I get off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if that's where you get off, then that's where you get off. It is what it is. And so, but it's really evaluating like the commitment to what it is that they're committing to. So it's not the money so much as it is what about this level, what about this situation appeals to you the most, and you may find it before you get to, you know, level 24. You may
How
find
long
it
you been
beforehand.
coaching now, coach?
15 years.
Yeah. Have you noticed sometimes you just come back? They got off at level 16. Sometimes they grow up on their own. Sometimes they go down a little bit, but they come back to you because they know last time I came with you, you gave me the greatest amount of growth. I went through more floor growth than ever before. And you said you were at 24. Well, guess what? Over 15 years, you grew. Now you're in a building of 16 floors or another 16 floors. So now you got 40 floors. So like, hey, I want to go up to 24. That's great. I'm on my way up to 40. 40? I remember back when we were coaching, you were on shooting for 24. Yeah, well, it's back then. You got a
you
bigger
know,
sky
so
rise.
Ted, I was thinking about while you guys are talking, and I get it. Like for me as a pilot, I reached a point with a fairly good performance single engine airplane. Absolutely no desire to graduate to a twin engine.
Do I
Just
go to
none
twin
whatsoever.
or do you do the fair weather flying in, you know, you're not certified for the fly through clouds shit, right?
No, I am.
Oh, you are. Okay. Because that's a
But
whole that's a whole level of like crazy sauce. That's like there's flying, and then like once you've done that, it's so different. And it's
right, but
such a
what I'm
game
saying
changer.
is, I just didn't want to take on the complexity, the headache, or the expense of a twin engine airplane.
Yeah.
I was happy with my single engine planes.
Most people aren't. You're old enough to understand what happiness is. I'm afraid that people are losing sight for what makes them happy. And I'm saying progress right now. Like, show me a human being who is happy. They're progressing in some way. You know, it's just crazy. Some of my, I used to get some of the best coaches in the world from retired CEOs that just refuse to go back and do a huge work week, but they want to find a way to keep contributing. So they contribute in a fraction of the time, but because they're doing such a great job as a coach and they might only, you know, put in 30 hours a week, they feel like they're on top of the world and they feel so fulfilled as they're doing other things because they found a way to keep giving back. Right. It's just such an interesting game. Yet I got to tell you, I think I'm on this topic a lot because I'm coming out of the holidays. And I don't know about you all, but you ever notice you're not a prophet in your hometown? And you get to those that you love and you get around though, and you start and you say, okay, well, you know, my identity of what I do at work is not the identity I take back to the family. Right. So you're biting your tongue a lot, you know, just patience, right? Just shutting hell up a lot more, you know, and even past clients but specifically family members. I think that pulls that string. Like, how
But
much
it's a
of this
gift,
is
Ted.
my role? I was their coach at
It's a
one time.
gift.
Do I take that? Do I let that go?
It's a
Well,
gift because you really recognize um, a person's capacity to receive. You really recognize a person's capacity to receive. And like
Mhm.
I, you know, this holiday season, I had family members and things of that nature, and they were talking about getting excited about getting $1.20 raise um, in what they're doing, and you come to realize that you know what, I'm the alien.
Yeah.
I'm the alien. Once you hit a certain income mark, you're not the norm.
Yeah.
You're the alien. You're among the top percent of income earners, wealth builders in society. And so the norm for most people is this is how they go about creating, and this is
Mhm.
the way they think, and this is what they do. And then you start to realize it really kind of gives you a deeper appreciation because how can you contribute, add value to a person, and you understand that's their container?
Well, that
Like
container,
they're never gonna get. They're never gonna get this.
I don't attribute to that. I don't buy that. Because I think I'm wired differently. I believe that person can turn on at 70. I have
Oh
this
yeah, they
weird,
could. It's just that's where
I
they
have an
are.
unsatiable belief in humanity that timing is irrelevant. Like, so I love what you just said. And that's why I said, I think I only patience. What I mean by that is when I too have family members that get excited about a $1.20 raise. Well, I first remember when I got excited for the $1.20. I could tell you when it was. I was at Dairy Queen. It was more of a job. Like, you know, paper route was a little bit more like your own business. I went to the bank and I did my own financing on my own. So paper route didn't feel like a job, but you know, I did have a boss though, called me on my shit. If I didn't put in the inserts on the Sunday coupon cut before a holiday, I'd get hung. If I didn't put those coupons in there, they hang you. So anyhow, I remember. So one, I remember where I came from because I was blessed enough to come from that place. I can remember that. And then two, remember the research among men Now, it was among human beings, but I'll just say most of the great leaders of our recent history have been males. So that's why I'm saying men. The most productive years in their life, 70s, 80s, and 60s in order.
Well, and one thing, Coach, to your point, and I see that in both of you guys, and I try to do the same thing, is you were not a cloud on their horizon. I'm guessing that you encouraged them and said, "Great job." And then, but again, Ted, like there's a young guy over here at Orange Theory, and I've reached out to him and shown him some things he could do, and there's just zero interest. And I asked him, "What do you aspire to? What would you really rather be doing today?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Frankly, I'd rather be home."
Mm.
And he's a nice kid.
Yeah.
But honestly, I doubt if I'll waste much more time on it.
Now that kid, right, who's because prefers comfort instead of the hard. Like
Exactly.
I think so many people are missing the power of doing something difficult in your day. So like, because I've recovered quite well from my injury, and to even call it an injury is interesting and a complicated thing for me to utter out loud, because I don't like to give power to things that controlled me, but I'm just trying to be transparent about it. So today I'm on the floor and I'm saying, okay, I'm doing workout. I'm working out. I did a workout yesterday. I'm using tonal. I'm following a guy that did P90X. I forgot his name. I think he's 64 and really fit. I assume he's on testosterone replacement therapy. Otherwise, he's a beast at 64. I think he's 64, maybe 74. You guys know P90X? Any of you guys do that 30 years ago?
No, I don't do it, but I'm very
Can't
familiar
remember his
with
name.
it.
I've heard of it, but I don't.
Can't remember his name. Good guy. So he's my guy. He does 20 and 20. So I did it yesterday, and today was leg day, but I'm supposed to give myself a day of healing. And I wanted to give myself the gift of saying, fuck that healing day. Let's go do that now. Now, I bragged about that stuff on social media, and I went and looked at it, and I embraced it. And I 3 days in a row, I pulled out a little David Goggins, kind of like, screw it, just do it anyhow. And that got my body all twisted up. And so what's interesting is, like, when is it right for you to push yourself or push others? And it's always the balance, which is you push yourself first, and it's their choice to step up or step out. And yet I think it's my place in life to show even that kid at Orange Theory how much better it could be if you stuck it in and did the shit. You just did the hard stuff. And I have this, I don't know where it comes from, but it's in me I struggle leaving that kid and saying nothing. Well, that Orange Theory kid would hear me look him dead in the eye and go, and you know what? That's the reason. It's a saying, and I forgot, Ama Mori, it's again, I don't know my Greek. No, it's not Greek. That's it's basically saying the words, life doesn't happen to me, it happens for me. So then I get to share that with that man and say, hey, whatever it is you don't like about, lean into it. See, I'll lean into that. And, do it the best you can. And I'm telling you, when I see you here tomorrow, you're going to tell me how it's the best damn thing that ever happened to you. But I'm telling you, you won't say it to me today. But tomorrow morning, your head's going to be held a little higher, and they're going to find a gear you never knew you had before. But chances are you're not going to do it. Chances are you're going to go find a way to get home early. And chances are you get into your comfort zone again, and you won't grow. And chances are you won't look me up tomorrow to tell me that you went home like an apathetic person looking for the comfort zone, to stay comfortable. Because who am I, back to your identity coach, to stay warm and comfortable underneath your sheets, doing whatever you're comfortable doing, playing your video game or whatever the kid at Orange Theory is limping back to, versus embracing the suck. And that goes, I don't know. I think that, if you've gone through this shit, like, you have a deeper well to pull from. And that I just have such an empathetic heart to men that are, or women that are just diving face first towards that kind of apathy, that I struggle not saying something. And my wife sometimes thinks that's insensitive. And I'm here to say I'm considering that possibility on a daily basis. When is it a gift that I get to give, and when is it become insensitive? Because if you've noticed, there's a bunch of candy asses out there. They'll say that basically not acknowledging their victimhood is making you the perpetrator.
And here we come back
I'm gonna take-
to people are desperate to be unconscious. Like, some people really never really want to know what they're really capable of. Like, they don't want to know. They are very comfortable living beneath their potential.
Well,
is that
I
right?
think I'm
And it
gonna take
sucks
this,
to see that happen.
Ted, I'm gonna take this as a pep talk and give him another shot tomorrow.
Well, you don't, or you don't. Like, that's the beautiful intuition is, like, it's a weird thing to play the game. Like, I'll talk outside of both sides of my mouth. I will see a human being and I'll avoid them with a 10-foot pole. My kids, they see me. They know. I had a guy, complete stranger. I know he didn't talk to anyone about suicidal thoughts. I know he hasn't talked to anyone about this type of stuff. But this guy who served, I asked him, hey, where'd you serve? I knew he served. And he goes, oh, I didn't serve. I go, well, what were you doing? He goes, I was a cop. And I'm just sitting there like, how do you not understand the degree that you served? You're a police officer. I know he saw some shit, and I could tell he was struggling with some PTSD. And he came into my home. And when you come into my home, boom, you're instantly family, because you came through those gates. And there's a place that this home operates out of. And that guy somehow felt it. And and what's interesting was this man, I won't say any names, but I could tell the wife said nothing. And not because she didn't have stuff to say. I think she just sat and said, this guy talks to no one about nothing. And he's talking right now. And she just sat there like, who is this Ted Miller guy? And what is going on? Because he's talking more about his whole life, his near-death situation, his suicidal problems, his conundrums, everything. And I wasn't handling it. I was not buying any of the I'm going to be in pain forever stories. Coach knows how that can feel at times. He has his own story. And because I could relate to him, but I wasn't buying any of it. So I know it served him. And then I was blessed that I once got gifted a package from Tony Robbins because he did this interview and he felt like I could use it. So I buy it and I keep shipping it to people that have that conundrum. He left with 2 different packages. I said, listen to all these. I just gifted it to him. And I've had about 6 or 7 of those in rotation. I keep buying them and I say, give them back, mail them back. And about 60% of the time, I don't get them back. But I just keep them in rotation because I remember Tony gifted that to me once and I listened to it and it affected me once. And if it can affect one person, it'll affect another. You know what I mean? And because sometimes, they don't need me. Maybe they need Tony or whoever has impacted my life. So I have a tendency not to gift my own materials out to those in my environment, just in case they judge me a little. Right. But to what line is it yours to help someone or not? I kind of feel like life happens for me, not to me. And so because I'm choosing to spend majority of my time in service to others, what I mean by majority is I believe if I'm at 50 plus anything, 51% to 99%, it doesn't matter to the degree. That's where I know I'm serving this thing that I call divine right order. It's just a fun word I once heard, which esoterically means like I'm in service. I'm right with my belief system called the Lord or whatever you want to call it. So if I know I'm just 51%, so just it doesn't take much. So many people think they have to do all that. I need to accomplish so much to contribute. No, you don't. I'd say it's when you're given, when you have the least is when you remember it the most.
Well, doesn't that go to that quote from that Edmund Burke guy? The biggest failure is when the guy does nothing because he thought he could only do a little.
Yeah.
Hey, coach, I got a question for you. What's your best victim to victor story?
I would say June 12th, 2007, 2:14 p.m. Doctor walks in and says, "That's it. No more surgeries. Can't do anymore. There's nothing else we can do." And I was told I'd be dead in 10 days. So, in a hospital bed, in the hospital, having been told I got 10 days, I'd be dead in 10 days. I was given a death sentence. I had to make a choice, impact or excuse. But you can't do both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? And I made the decision to say, if I'm going out, I'm going to leave it all on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than focusing on the countdown to death, I decided to give life to others. I jumped on the internet, I started a podcast, and I gave everybody what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I poured every positive thing I knew, every book I've read, every quote I had. That turned into a client. Somebody actually called and asked me what was my coaching fees in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
And I landed my first coaching client in the hospital, in a hospital bed with 10 days to live. And before I knew it, it was 30 days past my expiration date.
Isn't
Then
that
it was
great?
6 months past my expiration date. And then it was a year, and so on. I ended up spending over 15 years in a bed-bound position. And in that same period of time, I built a sustainable six-figure business from a bed-bound condition. I joked with some of my friends and said, I found a way to do six figures from my back, and it wasn't porn.
And it wasn't porn. That's right.
So, it was just, but it was God's grace, and it was like, it showed me then it's what you focus on.
Yeah.
What you focus on, where your focus goes, energy flows.
Yeah.
And so when you get that point, when you get to that place, victimization is just all about living an alternative reality. It's
Yeah,
living a
that's
version of yourself that was never intended to exist. We're built to not only survive but to thrive. I mean, our bodies are so intelligent, you can come back from anything.
yeah.
And that was just God given. That's not,
Yeah.
it has anything to do with anything else. It's just God given.
Yeah.
And because He's made us that way, things like my story and so many others who faced death who looked death right in the face and said, yeah, no thanks. Or you're about 10 minutes late. I've decided to live.
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy into this. I'm not going to do it. Once you get to that place and you realize,
Mhm.
man, I have more potential than I even am aware of. I
Mhm.
had unlimited potential before I even had a body. And I got the ability I had the ability to dominate before I could even breathe. And so in understanding that, like, that's where I come from. That's the place that I come from. So when I see people talk about struggle and, this challenge, that challenge in life and business, I'm like, yeah,
You got
June
that depth. You got that depth in
2007,
your well to dig
2:14
from.
p.m.
You're like, that's not even
Yeah.
close. That's not even close. I love that you answered that so accurately when he said, what's your biggest story? And you told your own, because we only know our own. And, I want to commend you, acknowledge you and tip my hat that you're so willing to share your own. I have a tendency to share others first. Because I don't know, I think I talk about myself enough because of who I am. People want to know it, but probably don't talk enough about, same scenario, sitting on a phone call, serving my clients, and they weren't any wiser. I'd be on the phone doing a training and I hit mute and I'd cry out in agony from pain. Oh, just cry out. And the kids could hear it, right? Totally masculine. Unmute and just as if nothing and no one was the wiser because of this. And a mute button. Did that for a month and a half, laid up in a recliner because I couldn't lay flat in a bed. Crazy sauce. But that's that forging. That's that, it happens to, for you, not to you. And if you can get anchored into a couple core guiding principles like that, right? That's why I believe it can happen to any human being, because it's only simple a meaning you give to a scenario. The second someone questions their current walls of their belief structure and they just ask themselves why, that can happen at any age. That's why I don't judge people no matter what their age, too young or too old. I always believe that can be their moment. They can break through, become conscious, become even self-aware, and even become a contributor to society. Because I found the greatest contributors to humanity have been 70s, 80s, and 60s.
Hey, Coach.
Yeah.
What you
Yes, sir.
said reminds me of a friend of mine who was a long-term fighter pilot. And he said, imminent death has a funny way of sharpening your senses.
Imminent death has
Yeah.
a way of sharpening your senses. That said well.
Well, we just heard it. 10
Yeah.
days. Your body didn't get the memo, did it?
Yeah.
No, it's just, to Ted's point, it's like, man, it's hard to articulate sometimes, but you just got something in you, man. Like that thing kicks in and says,
Mhm.
no way in the world I'm gonna give
Yeah.
up. Like,
Yeah.
you know what? You're gonna literally have to come and take life from me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you get that dog in you, man. It's like,
Mhm.
really? I got this, I got that, I got a daughter. If you're gonna come take it from me, baby, because
Yeah.
like I'm not giving it up.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the Ted, that's one of the things I admire about you so much. I mean, you're very humble in that, but like the most powerful story you tell is your own. That
Mhm.
it's an extremely powerful story because it really speaks to you. You talked about humanity, but like the power of of just human will, the desire to live and to give life, not to just exist, but to give life into others. Like that's such a rare treasure
I
that
think
you
everyone has
find
it.
in people. Everybody does,
It's
but
just
not everybody can.
be
Not
conscious enough to
everybody
be self-aware enough to tap into that contribution, that spirit's in them. It's there.
exactly. They don't do it, and especially when we're talking about people who have achieved at very
Mhm.
high levels, you don't hear so much about that. They get very tactical about this and
Yeah. Yeah.
don't you want
That's
to
it.
do
Well.
that? Don't you want to do that? But they don't speak to it to the
Mhm.
level that you take the time and do. And I'm only saying that to encourage you, like, man, it's putting what's in you on the menu
Yeah.
when you tell that story. When you do it, it's like that's the greatest thing that a person can do because they can look and say, if Ted can do it, damn it, pardon my expression, then I can do it.
Yeah.
And
I don't
and
know if
and,
it's the
and I
greatest
want to,
thing you could do. I know it's one of those great things you can do.
yeah,
Vulnerability, transparency. I highly value it. And I thank you for acknowledging that, willingness to share. I believe everyone has it in them. Everyone's got that hunger, that drive, that discipline. It's in them.
it's not always activated.
But it's most have just let society and other people just let it die. It was just conditioned out. So I won't go into it. What I can do is cite a book that goes into it in great detail. Right here. Woo! That's some heavy lifting right there. Outwitting the Devil. Now, most people know Napoleon Hill for that one, Think and Grow Rich. And that was published way back in the day. This wasn't published until what, 16 years ago? Something like that.
Mhm.
Wasn't that long ago. 1938. This was written after this. But you didn't see it for a long time. Why? It was to the It's the insidious things that keep you from the hunger to want to keep living, the personal accountability, self resilience and reliance. But that's against the global agenda conversation. So he didn't want, his wife specifically didn't want to be outed at church because it outed the church. And so he said, okay, not writing the book. That's a good one. If you've not read it, that was, if you guys are listening on the podcast, I'm citing Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil, Secrets to Freedom and Success. So if Think and Grow Rich is all the things to do, I'd say Outwitting the Devil is all the things not to do. But sometimes you got to know what that is, because sometimes you unconsciously are doing the exact thing you shouldn't be doing, and you're dancing with the devil. Yeah, I appreciate you guys showing up here today. I love this. I did not send the reminder for others to show up for one reason. My power went out last night, and I didn't know if it was going to be on. So I went in on Infusionsoft on the phone, canceled this and that, and I had one bar. It took ever to make any decisions. And so I didn't send any of the reminders out today for that exact reason. I was afraid that I would not be able to be on Zoom, and made me reconsider how my business and my ability to contribute is so limited to something as simple as the internet. And I was like, I have a double set of microphones in this building. Every other microphone is this exact microphone. So if this dies, I can swap out, right? Same thing with technology, earbuds, things, they're the same. It's just for business to stay, redundancy, so you can keep up going. I realized right now, I don't have a redundancy for this thing, the internet, called the internet. I know it sounds stupid to say out loud, but before the internet was what? The phone? Television? Before the television was the phone? Before the phone, like, right? You go through the line, there was always a mass forum where all data was, and I got to think through some strategic insights and go, what else can I be leveraging that's going to mitigate the risk of something as simple as having no power? I can't serve people. Now it sounds odd, but it's, I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm not going to be able to do the thing I love just because I don't have power. That doesn't make sense. I got to find a better way. So, all right, I'll leave you guys on that. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you guys next year. This is the best time we get to say that. Good to see you next year, buddy. Hey, Coach, we do this each week. This group in January is going to grow. What we're going to do is keep this inner circle tight. We're going to keep it 12 people at a time. I'll have 1,000 people on the Zoom. I don't care. I'm hiring a bunch of marketers to help assist us. So I've been spending the last couple months just kind of dialing in some thoughts and ideas and how I want to orchestrate this. And so 2023 is where this will grow. So when in doubt, you want to tell people about how they can master their business, just send them to the Business Breakthrough community. It's the best place they can get the most profound insights and learn from great people without having to pay the $25,000 mastermind fees.
Hey, Ted.
Yes, sir.
To that end, if you get a chance, can you send me a simple email with a link that I can forward to people?
Are you kidding me? Happy to do that. Absolutely. Thanks, forward it your way. Businessbreakthroughcommunity.com. I'm going to send it your way now. All right. Blessings, you guys. Thanks. Catch you on the flip side.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.